everyone. It's time to eat, drink, and be merry with your hosts, Lisa and Nancy.
Welcome, everybody. Nancy and I are very happy girls right now. We are sitting and sipping on a 2014 Sky Island Petite Syrah from Cochise-County, Arizona. We're talking about the Chiricahua-Mountains when you talk about Sky Islands, the land of standing up rocks in the Cochise stronghold, an amazing place of geology. In fact, it's known for its hoodoos, volcanic eruptions, and, geology rocks when you talk about this area, but also an amazing wildlife and bird watching, best bird watching places in the country, especially for hummingbirds and trogon birds. And it's a lot of history. When we talk about Cochise Stronghold, we're talking about Cochise and the Apache Wars and where Geronimo got captured by the U.S. Cavalry. And so also, this area is one of the most incredible winemaking regions. And we all think Arizona wine. If you haven't tried it, you're definitely going to want to try this wine. It's LDV Winery. They have a tasting room in Scottsdale. And this is a wonderful find from our dear friend Linda Kissam. She's one of our longtime travel writers and Big Blend Radio contributors and sometimes co-host. And she brings the most amazing people to our show. And she is known as the food, wine, and shopping diva. And she definitely knows good wine and knows what to buy, where, and when. And very excited to have you back on the show, Diva Linda. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. Thank you very much. And as you're right, this is a real Arizona find. This is something that this LDV Winery is really a great introduction to Arizona wines. You never know when you're going to a warm climate if it's going to be or if the wines are going to be too much over the top. But somehow the owner, Peggy, and her team have actually figured out how to make great wines that are sustainable, gluten-free, and vegan-free, and actually taste wonderful. The tasting room is fabulous. You love it. You go downtown Scottsdale, old Scottsdale, and there's lots to do and see. But LDV Winery's got to be the number one thing that you're doing because it is fantastic. And the prices are good. They're not overblown. The wines are wonderful. And I'm really glad to share about the wines and the great funny story about how Peggy came to develop this winery, buy this winery, develop it, etc. Because it's sort of, we were laughing when I did a tasting with her, and some other media people were there too, but we kept saying it's a story of how hard can it be? Have you ever done that, anyone, where you think you can do a project because it's just not going to be that difficult. I mean, just buy a winery and figure out the tasting room, then the tasting room building falls down. I mean, this is quite a story, and I'm hoping we have time for Peggy to sort of condense the story of how she started and where she is now, and then maybe we can go into the wines, but the story is fabulous.
I know. I want to bring Peggy on the show. She's the owner, along with Kurt Lawrence Dunham, who's the winemaker. And Peggy, you're going to have to pronounce your last name because I want to do it all kinds of ways, but I want to do it with like a good Italian accent there. So welcome, Peggy. How are you?
I am terrific, and thank you for having me on. And it's Fiandaca, a good Sicilian name.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah,
Fiandaca.
so hard.
So can I go Fiandaca? No?
Yeah, I love that.
Okay, good.
That's okay. You can do it.
Well, listen, because that name's got personality, and you think about Italy and Italian food, it's like you feel, there's an energy that goes with it. And I have to tell you, your wines are absolutely exceptional. Some of the favorite that we've tasted all year round. And Nancy and I do love our wine tastings, as Linda knows. And it just made me homesick. We're based out of Tucson, even though we travel full time. Our storage units and our friends are all out there, and we've hiked all around that region. In fact, it's some of the first parks that we visited on our Love Your Parks tour, Fort Bowie, and you've got Chiricahua National Monument out there, and all the vineyards, Elgin, Sonoyta. So it seems like your vineyards are a little bit above Elgin and Sonoyta, right?
Yes, we're at a higher altitude, we're at 5,000 foot elevation. And as you know, that we're at the foothills of the Chiricahua-Mountains, which rise up to 10,000 feet. So we're growing grapes at basically a mile high, like Denver.
Awesome. Wow. And the temperatures are really interesting because it does have that cold snap that will get you. In fact, once in a while, some snow. And if you've been out there in the snow, it is insanely beautiful. But before we go further, I want everyone to know your website. It's LDV-Winery.com. Also, you can keep up with Diva Linda as she travels around the country, around the world, wherever she goes. She goes all over, and she floats on her boat, too, in the summer. Go to allingoodtaste.info. And she also has an article about her wine tasting experience at the tasting room in Scottsdale. And we've got a recipe from Peggy. We've got Thai noodles, spicy Thai noodle recipe that goes with the Viognier. A wine that was actually created from your Viognier grapes, I believe.
Correct.
And so you can see that all on blendradioandtv.com right now, and it'll be in the upcoming issue of Eat, Drink, Be Merry magazine. But LDV Winery, let's start with that. Tell us about the name, because I know the logo is really fast. We love what you've done with the logo and the meanings behind it. So tell us about the name and the logo, and then let's get into wine. And we all want to hear the story Linda's talking about, too.
You bet. LDV stands for Lawrence and Dunham Vineyards. Lawrence and Dunham are my husband's family's names. So his mom's maiden name was Lawrence, and my husband, who is also the winemaker, his last name is Dunham. And since we didn't have kids, we carry on the names with grapes, and hopefully, actually for several generations, hopefully with grapes.
That's funny.
And yeah, and our we're so concerned about future generations and sustainability, and we were wine collectors. This was never on our bucket list of things to do with our lives. We just loved wine. We loved wine people and sitting around in vineyards and drinking someone's wine. But when we got into the business, and we said we're going to do this right, and we want to do it, make the highest quality wines we can, make them grow grapes in as sustainable a manner as we can. And so our logo, which is 3 circles, basically, you would think that was hard or easy to come up with, but no, that was actually quite hard to come with the 3 circles because it has so much meaning behind it. And the first circle on the top of our 3-circle logo represents the early farmers, basically, that were farming our land thousands of years ago. And I have 20 acres that's in a riparian area along Ash Creek, and after a rain, I still, when I hike out there, I get artifacts that are uncovered in that. I have 6 different matates, which are stone grinders that I pulled out of the creek. So that's in honor of those early farmers. The second circle on that is us being farmers today and really taking care with the land and growing grapes. And the third circle represents us turning those grapes into wine and putting everything back into the soils and managing it. And so it's all the connection, not only to our land, but to each other and to our customers. And our tagline is Earth Fruits Come Full Circle.
I love it. And Diva Linda was saying that you're vegan, gluten-free, and this is it's a very interesting thing because people are going to go, well, isn't all wine vegan and isn't all wine gluten-free? And I can tell the difference because Nancy and I have allergies to fish and seafood, and I can tell there's certain sulfites that are used in wine that I'll drink the wine, but I can start feeling my breathing change, or I'll get like a little bit of hives or really red, rosy cheeks, the ones on my face. But
right.
but I can tell the difference, and I think this is something exceptional what you're doing with your wine. That you've got this amazing flavor. The velvet, this is velvet. It's just Nancy. I think Diva Linda in her article got it right about it being elegant. These wines are so elegant, and yet you want to just back and, I don't know, relax into the bottle. If you, but
still, they're so when you're drinking a little bit of this wine, your pinky finger goes up just automatically.
And listen, for Nancy, that's a good thing because normally it's the other finger. I'm just saying. But Peggy, tell us a little bit about being gluten-free and vegan, because I think a lot of people really will say hey, it's made from grapes. Of course it is.
Right. Well, it's not necessarily the sulfites. So we have to put sulfites in it because it's a living product, and we want to make sure that when you take it home that it's still viable. So we use lower than the national average of sulfites because we're not sitting on grocery store shelves or anything like that. We're direct to the consumer primarily. But what we don't do, which people are mostly allergic to, is we don't fine or filter our wines. And fining is the way to clarify the wine before you bottle it, typically, and get out all the sediment that you can. And typically, particularly cheaper wines, but many, I would say probably most of the wineries will put additives in the wine that attracts the sediment and attracts those particles so they can remove them easily. And so those fining agents vary from fish bladders, milk proteins, egg proteins, or even artificial additives that allow that easy removal of any of the sediment. And that's what people are allergic to. Legally, we don't have to put that on the label that you're doing that. We have to put on the label that sulfites are used, but you're going to get more sulfites when you go to a salad bar than you would in an entire bottle of wine. But because legally we have to put it on our label, people we need to make people aware that we use them. But it's very low. So it's usually the other things, the additives that are added to the wine. We don't do that.
Oh, because I didn't have any of those reactions at all with your wine, and it was just, I kind of always go wait for it. So it ruins the experience. So I think that's wonderful that you don't do that. And yes, that basically it means you're going to have bitsies at the end of the glass, but that's the fruit. I mean, to me, does it help the flavor to have the bitsies? I'm just going into my lingo.
Well, on fine wines or older aged wines, you're always going to find some sediment in it. And so what we do is what's called racking, and we rack the wines in the barrels every 30 to 45 days. And so if we're aging a wine over 36 months, we're racking that wine a lot. And what that does is we as you know, the sediment falls to the bottom of the barrel, and we take the wine out of the barrel, we clean out the sediment, and then we put the wine back and top it off. So we're doing that to all of our barrels in our winery every 36 to 45 days, and that's our way of clarifying the wine. And if some sediment is left in the bottle, we just call it love dust. And it shows that we love you and we want to take care of you, and our wines are as clean as we possibly can get them.
I like that. And they're fantastic wines. I couldn't believe that we were getting 2014 and 2015 vintages, and at the same time, the cases. I mean, most of the time it's like you're doing cases that are just over 300 cases per wine. I mean, that's 336 cases for the 2015 Sky Island Grenache, which is the Grenache, and I know, Linda, we need to talk about that. We were talking about that earlier before we started recording this. But I mean the Petite Sirah that we're having. Oh, the signature. Ooh, the signature. You guys want the signature? Only 225 cases are produced. We all sat there going, "Oh my God, do we take another sip? Savor, savor." You know. I mean, it's like drinking gold. Oh.
Yeah. And the fact that once we don't try to replicate a wine, you know, like big producers, you know, it's more of a formula making the wine. And so when you go to Kendall Jackson or another big producer and you buy their Chardonnay, year after year, you want it to taste like their Chardonnay. Well, we're a very boutique winery, and we like to represent the grapes that we picked because we're 100% estate winery. We grow all of our own grapes. And so our wines reflect that vintage. And so if you like that signature Petite Sirah 2015, you better get it, because once it's sold out, if we do another signature, it's not going to taste exactly the same.
And Diva Linda, I want to bring you in on this because you are the food, wine, and shopping diva. With this, you were talking about the prices, and I was looking at the pricing, and when you think about the low amount of cases produced, I think the pricing is phenomenal.
Amazing.
Yeah,
I think the pricing is reasonable for the boutique, for a boutique winery. I really do. So the Viognier was about $36, if I remember correctly. The Grenache, which was one of my favorites, $38, and so forth. So nothing goes up in the $50, $60, $70 range in general. I'm sure she has some wines probably that, you know, she has that might hit that. But in general, she's kept her prices down to a reasonable amount for especially for what you get. These wines are really elegant. And I think most people say Arizona, you know, it's just too hot. It's not. It's
cactus
wine.
It would be.
Yeah, I mean, if you're out there amongst the cactus and growing grapes, which you wouldn't probably see, you know, you're gonna have a problem. But she's so high up, 5,000 feet is really high actually, and those grapes get just what they need, and I think that they're loving their grapes and not abusing them and not making them something that they're not supposed to be, and that's probably the secret of a really good winery. And especially if you're only using your own grapes, that's a real challenge. That's another how hard can it be, but it is hard because if something happens, you know, a pest, too much rain, too little rain, too cold, too hot, whatever, you're stuck. That's it. It's not like beer. I think people like to make beer because if it turns out, you know, crummy, they pour it down the drain, start again, and, you know, they have another batch very soon. You know, you get once a year. That's it. This is what you get. You get one haul a year, and you got to figure out what to do with it. And keeping a wine like a 2014 and serving it in 2021. You know, that's a lot of money just in the care, you know, the racking, the care, the space, the people you need to do it. This is all, you know, it's not just slapping some juice in a bottle. You know, the whole program is great, and I'd be interested in understanding, Peggy, why you chose Arizona. I think you could have chose any place you wanted to be, and yet you chose. How did you get to Arizona to make wines?
Well, we've been in Arizona for about 45 years, so this is home. And there was only one time in all of our travels, because we used to travel all over the world collecting wine. I had a 2,000-bottle wine cellar, and we just loved to bring home wine from small wineries around the world to share with our friends. But there was only one time we were sitting in San Luis Obispo, probably after a couple bottles of wine, and we said, you know, why don't we go look at land and consider maybe getting into the business? And this was probably 25 years ago. When still it might have been approachable. But even at that time, we said, no way. But we went to southeastern Arizona, visiting a friend who had already been in the business for a little bit. He had been bugging the heck out of us to come try his wine. And we were kind of wine snobs. Arizona wine, I don't know if that's what we want to taste. But we ran out of excuses, and so we went down to southeastern Arizona, and we had every, excuse in case the wine wasn't very good of how to get out of there and still be polite. But we sat there looking in their vineyards, having lunch with them and trying their wine, and it looks like Amador County, like in Northern California. And
yeah, you're right.
And their wine was pretty good, even though they were a new producer, pretty good. And we said, gosh, again, being the wine snobs we were at the time, we said, if he can make this good a wine, this is going to take off. And lo and behold, we got a realtor and started looking at land, and we said, we just want 5 acres, 10 acres, and we'll flip it, because this is going to take off. Well, 40 acres later, a big building that said, neon lights, basically, just add wine. It looked like we could turn it into a winery. We found ourselves with the property. Of course, being business people, we did all of our due diligence and looked at the water and soil testing and everything else before we signed on the dotted line. But all of a sudden, we found ourselves in the wine business. And that was in 2008. We planted our first grapes.
Well, that's an interesting year to start a winery. Holy cow.
I know, but you didn't count on that happening. Like, what is the glassy winged sharpshooting bug or whatever?
Yes. Yeah.
That, things that happen that people don't tell you about because you're buying from them. Yeah.
Yeah. Just if things can happen, I mean, so everything in our story is kind of serendipity, so here we are, 40 acres, raw land. We bought raw land. We didn't buy an existing vineyard.
Okay.
And as you all know, it takes, usually when you buy your grapes, you buy the rootstock and from a nursery, and typically we buy from California nurseries like Tablas Creek or some other nurseries in California. So it usually takes a year before you get rootstock to plant. Well, someone defaulted on 2 acres of Petit Syrah that had the perfect rootstock that we wanted for our soils. So we went to never ever dreaming of being in the wine business in, November to getting grapes that spring.
Wow.
So we had to, till the land and remove all the trees that we had, mesquite bushes basically on 1,000 mesquite trees. We had to put in all the infrastructure, the fencing, the irrigation system to be ready to receive and plant our first vines that came that spring. It was crazy.
Yeah.
I know that both of you are from, community planning and town planning, city planning. And I know that landscaping is part of that, community is part of that. All those nasty little fine line little details and red tapey things that none of us want to look at is in all of that. Understanding taxes. And, you guys have to, even roads, like, hello, don't turn left here. You can't make it. It's going to be a one-way street. The amount that goes into community planning is just, and then dealing with people. If I were you, I'd go into the wine industry, and hell yes, I'd be collecting wines around the world if I was in your position doing those careers. Hats off to you on doing that, because I think it's just such important work, and there's just so much to it. Did those skills help you with the land and planning? There's always going to be the unforeseen with any business or any, you can go think we're going to go from A to B on a road trip, and it's not going to be what it is. It just isn't. Life ain't that way. Diva Linda, you know that. We're going to go on an easy boat ride from A to B. We're going to go from, we're going to go from Washington to Alaska. What could go wrong? Nothing. No whale's going to.
Yep.
No, you don't need new boots. But going from that, you guys have that some of that knowledge of even plants in a way, right?
Sure. We were able to navigate, the regulatory process maybe easier than others did, and get through the permitting for the winery and for our land, because we understood that process, because we've worked in that arena before. But I'm from Chicago. I've never been on a farm. I've never grown anything in my life.
Well, snow. Snow. That's one thing.
I know
snow.
And
ice.
Yep.
No wonder you live in Arizona.
Right. So Kurt's family has been in farming a long time, but he hadn't been. I mean, he visited his uncle's farm in Arizona, but he hadn't been. But if you choose your second career like what we did, into jumping off the deep end into the wine business, if you're smart, you study, you learn, you talk to people, you find mentors, and then it's trial and error, and you move forward. But so far, we're having fun at our second act.
That's awesome.
You're sounding a little bit like Green Acres, that TV show with Zsa Gabor.
Boy, we're dating ourselves.
Nancy,
sorry.
You're dating yourself.
Well, hey, whatever.
Don't put me in that. I'm not going there. No, but this isn't, because the wine to me is really, really amazing. And I mean, you shipped it to us when we were in. Actually, we were in Green Acres, in the suburb of Lake Worth, Florida. Believe it or not.
Yeah.
And it's weird because Green Acres has followed us. We actually, when we lived in South Africa, we were right near Green Acres Mall, and part of a suburb in Port Elizabeth. It's weird. But anyway, we got the wine and we brought it up to Asheville, and the first night we arrived in Asheville, we had a dinner party put on from our host, the ladies here, and we got out the wine. We're like, okay, there's 2 Grenache and there's 2 Petit Syrahs, and they're all into it because they go to wine parties. They have like a wine store here that does wine tastings, and so we all got into it, and I know Nancy and they had to get up at 3 a.m. Nancy and I were like, come on, girls, let's go. You'll sleep well before you fly. But it was really interesting because one of the ladies doesn't have as much of a sense of smell, which affects her sense of taste. So we went through this, and it was really interesting because we were all going through this. We tasted the Grenache first. So let me go through the one. We went, because we just kind of blind picked, let's go for it. And we did the 2015 Grenache. And we were all just like, oh, wow, taken aback. This is amazing. My thing was, when I started reading, it's like from the Chiricahua-Mountains, I'm going, oh, this is going to be some good wine. I know from Sonoyta and Elgin that great wines come out of there, but that elevation, I was like, this is new, and it's going to be good. I just know it's going to be good because of what the geology there, and I was like, 2015, no way. We all loved it. We all were saying that it's velvety, and so the one friend, she was like, you know what, this is really good. And then we moved on to the signature Petit Syrah, the 2015, and then I'm like, dude. And that was the word, dude. Sorry. Dude. I'm sorry. Sorry, wine stops, but dude, this is amazing. But the other girl's still stuck on the Grenache, and then all of a sudden we're going back and forth. And we were just going through these waves of the layers, this wine, and is it the vintage, like the year of it? Because just as you go slowly through the bottle, these layers, and I know it gets more oxidation and all of that good stuff, but this was exceptional in that if you just slowed down, these layers just kept coming. I mean,
right.
I mean, they didn't sex in a bottle. I'm just going to say. It was just one thing, this one amazing, it just kind of got into this journey of you're going deeper and deeper into the wine. When I said you just wanted to lean into the bottle at the beginning of our conversation, I mean it, because this was like listening to really good music, an album, a concept album that you're going on a journey. And I highly recommend that you listen to good music with this. This is a journey. that I really appreciated, and I know everyone did, and we're still on that journey. But those layers, that to me is what really got me. That it, wines open up, but this was different. Is it the year? Is it that it's such a small batch? What is it?
Couple things. Obviously, our winemaking philosophy is basically to grow exceptional grapes and then just not screw it up, basically, once it gets in the winery, and manipulate those grapes as little as possible. And so we do single varietal wines. As you said, I didn't send you any blends. All of the wines I sent you were 100% that grape variety. So we only have maybe once a year we'll do one blend to bring to the marketplace. And so we're very gentle in the winemaking style. We actually use Pinot Noir winemaking style because Pinot Noir is such a finicky grape and a thin grape, and we try to be as gentle with them as possible during the winemaking process. We also don't rush our wines to the marketplace, obviously. That's why you're drinking 2015 wines now. So that, the Sky Island Grenache that you were drinking, we had barrel-aged that for 31 months. And then we typically bottle age for another year before we bring it to the marketplace. And the other thing about the wines I sent to you, most of them were 2015. And in 2015, it was ideal growing season. So we had really warm days and an average monsoonal activity, which is the rainy season, which occurs during our growing season. But it allowed us to really hang the grapes out there in the vineyard well into the cool nights of September. And so I think the grapes that we got in 2015 had exceptional balance and flavor that has allowed us to really produce these complex, like you were talking about, the layers of flavor, and really smooth, velvety mouthfeel in our wines coming out of 2015. So it was just, luckily we just had a good year all around in that. And
I like that you're working with the land then, and you're allowing the land to do what it does. And so it's like, so going back to like music, right, and the arts, the music and the arts always signifies the truest form of what happened in the world or what's going on, more than what you can hear with the talking heads on TV, right? The music will tell you what people are feeling, what the world's going through. And I think that's really the truth about wine and certain cheeses too, and chocolates depending, but it's like wine and cheese do it, where you can see, okay, this really happened at this time, and so that is amazing. And do you feel sad when it goes away? I mean, because look, this is going to be it.
Yes, exactly. So if you like one of our wines, if you love that 2015 signature, you better buy it up quick, because once it's gone, it's gone. And I have wine club members that reminisce with us because they've been with us for many, many, many years and have tried our wines through the years, and they'll reminisce with us about past vintages of our wines and wish, I wish we could have our 2012 Petit Syrah again. So our wines also are very ageable, even though, we're drinking right now the 2015 wines. They'll still be good 8 to 10 years from now. We have a library of all of our wines, and so every year we pull them out to see how they're aging, and they're doing really quite well. So don't be afraid that it's a 2015 and it might be going bad on you.
I think your wines make me, because we used to live in Mexico, and it takes me there. Your wines, there's something, it's like a mole sauce kind of thing. It's like, it's a spicy chocolate layered thing. And
that's the layers.
Yeah, and so now I want to make like broth with chili sauce.
Go, Nancy. Go.
Yeah.
Go do it. We've got the best kitchen to do it in. Go make it. Go make them right now. But wait,
yeah,
we got to finish this
like
conversation.
Chocolate
Go make
with
it.
a little chili powder
yeah.
in it. Like that kind of thing.
Go down to Chiricahua and go get your chili spices in Chiricahua, around the corner, kind of from there. But
I love that description of a mole, because mole is so complex, and when you taste a good mole sauce, it's intriguing. Every bite gets you to think about it and try to dissect all of the various spices that might go into it, and so I'm thrilled that you think our wines are a comparison to that.
Yeah, that's exactly where it went. I'm like, remember when we went to this restaurant, we had this, and we're like talking about mole sauces, and we're like, this is, I want to take your wine to Mexico.
Yeah, I remember having a mole. It was in Ensenada. We call it the Pollo place, the chicken restaurant. One of a good friend, and this was probably about 15 years ago, and we went to chicken, and they had this mole, and I literally was just just lean into the bottle of wine. I wanted to go in the sauce. I just wanted to bathe in it.
Where the wine took us.
And then that was it. There was no going back and getting the same thing ever again. We tried. I went through all the moles every time we'd go. And that was it. That boom. But there you can't. I feel like you could make a documentary chasing the mole. Because and that's the beauty, but that's the beauty of art. And this is to me, wine is temporary art. They do a lot of temporary public art. They'll bring in sculptures and they move it away, and you get so used to that beautiful sculpture, and then it's gone, and then you're like, oh no, and then something will replace it, and you'll go, oh, a whole new experience. So wine is like temporary art, because even though it's changing no matter what you do, even when you put it in the library. That baby it's growing and going, you know what? I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. Yep. And so it's a collaboration with nature, which is really pretty incredible. I do want to turn to Diva Linda, because Diva Linda, number one, Diva knows her stuff. And thank you, Diva Linda, for getting Peggy on the show and introducing us to these amazing wines. But I want to know what it was like being in the tasting room, because I'm so out in the vineyards right now. Like, I want to be in them. I want to take your wine into the vineyards and go hiking up there with your wine. That's where I'm at right now. And I'm going to go see the Trojan birds or the hummingbirds and everyone. That whole area is just, the Sky Islands are a place of magic that you would not believe come out of Arizona. This is not a big piece of, desert sand with, Gumby cactus. This is a four-season, amazing magic land. It is one of. We've traveled all over, and this is really one of the best places in the world. Seriously. And Peggy, I know you feel that way too, right? You've traveled all over.
Oh, absolutely.
It's one of the most
special places.
The ecosystem, the
history,
the biodiversity is amazing, and I love that you pay respect to the Native American indigenous people's history there, and that you bought land that wasn't, developed before you, because I think that keeps your topsoil nice and clean and real. But Belinda, what is the tasting room experience like? I know they have a wine club, and it looks like a good place for events. What was that experience like?
Well, I think I got to see tasting room part 2, because I think tasting room part 1, there was an issue with structure or something. So I got to see, so she had to move out and then she moved back in. So I think that was during the pandemic too. All that stuff at one time. But, you just keep one foot in front of the other. But my experience is, once again, I like going to a tasting room that has other things around it, and this is in sort of a shopping district. There's a couple other wineries, I think, as well. There's inside and outside tasting, so you take the bar is, it's very unpretentious. It's beautiful, it's light, it's very unpretentious. The the guy behind the bar was fabulous. You know, he just was attentive and wanted to know when we first walked up, not knowing that I was doing an article or that the other 3 people with me were doing articles. They came at different times. He didn't know that, and he was just as kind and attentive as he can be. And probably Peggy will, as you all know, getting really good staff can be difficult, and keeping. Maybe you can get them, but can you keep them?
Yeah.
And he was knowledgeable, and that was nice. And it's not a huge, big, I don't know, champagne structure. It's a Napa Valley style. This is Arizona style, but light and airy, and you can sit down and you can talk with your friends, and you can have a flight, you can have a glass, you can do many things. I think there are some food items. Am I right, Peggy? There's some food items that you can get. Yeah. So, and I think that's really important, especially if you brought people who don't like to shop with you. And you just park their butts like my husband in there, and he'd be fine for 2 hours. We'd just be fine. And it's very, very open and light, and I like that kind of thing. I'm not big into cavey things, so you're going to have a wonderful, wonderful experience. And it's not huge. It's sort of a small boutique. It's a boutique winery that reflects how they do things there. That reflects what it looks like. And I think really what's wonderful is Peggy is really involved in the community, and she has lots of events that she supports, is part of, initiates.
Nice.
The wine club is fabulous. Her wine club people love her. She takes people on cruises and they drink wine. Her wine club members, and she just doesn't. It just doesn't leave you hanging there. So I think many people join wine clubs, and that's the last time you really feel the winery. You get the wine, but you don't feel the winery any longer. That's why a lot of people join a wine club, because they love the experience so much when they're in the tasting room. But I'm sure Peggy will tell you, it's just like people that go to the Chamber of Commerce or join a club or anything else. If you don't involve them constantly, they will drift away. They just will. That's just, they find another sparkly thing to look at. So I really like the way Peggy structures everything, and I think it's smart. She's just smart and does smart things. And, I think she probably makes you sort of feel like you're part of the family. Highly recommend this experience, highly recommend the tasting room, the wines, the concept behind the wines. And a lot of times, I think most of you know I was the director of a wine region for many years. And I don't know, many times a winery gets very popular, and they have to start pushing out their wines way before they're ready to come out. In order to stay in business. They've got some wines and everybody bought them up. They thought they were wonderful, and now what? I don't have any inventory. So they start pushing out stuff way before it should be. And I think they do a disservice to themselves and their members. So, good for you, Peggy, for just holding on to your stuff until it's ready and it still has some ageability. That's pretty cool, too. So you're seeing stuff that's aged, loved, churned, and then you get it, and then you go, wow, I like this enough, so maybe I want to just keep it in my library myself, my own library. And, you have another 8 to 10 years. That's smart.
I really love this because if you've never been to a winery in Colorado or Arizona, there's certain states that just
Texas even,
that aren't really known for wine. And so maybe somebody goes, oh, I'm going to go to a winery in Arizona, and your vision is Lee Marvin on a mule with saddlebags full of hooch, going down some rocky hillside to the bottom of the Grand Canyon, and I don't know. I think it's important that we do these shows to broaden people's idea of what each state has, because there are certain states that are known for wine, and other ones like, really, they have wine there? And so many people just don't. I mean, why would they know that? How would they know that?
Yeah. So, What's great about Arizona is that we can really produce fine wine grapes. So grapes are actually being grown in Arizona. We're like in Texas and some other states, they have to still bring in grapes from California and other places. But Arizona, we're a fast-growing wine region. We were number 19 of licenses in the state of Arizona, and now there are 125 or more.
Wow.
Wow. So it's really a fast-growing industry. People, all of the wineries, or a lot of the wineries ship, like we do, 37 states around the country. And we're getting known we're starting to be recognized for uniqueness of our wines that really represent the volcanic soils or the terroir here in Arizona. So you're gonna hear a lot about Arizona wines in the next few years. You guys are on the cutting edge of finding us and talking about us, but I think we're going to really be out there and known as an up and coming wine region.
I agree.
I love
Absolutely.
it. I remember when Elgin and Sonoyta were so small, and even Wilcox being so small. Like, here's a winery here, a winery. Callaghan was, I think, the first wine we had from Arizona, and then Pillsbury and Keelan Schaefer, Coronado. I want to say there's a few.
Coronado.
They're out in Wilcox. I think they changed. I don't know if they changed hands, but I mean, it was amazing to see. And I think also it's interesting that you're in Scottsdale with the tasting room. I think that's really smart, because I think that by doing that, you're also promoting Southeast Arizona, which people will kind of, most of the time, from what I know, will think, okay, Tucson, but all these other areas are kind of hidden, unless you're a bird watcher or like a, geologist kind of, it's still a hidden gem. Tombstone, people go for the movie, and it's different. And but Chiricahua, I mean, when you go there, like I say, this is like a 4-season, unique, special place. And I think what you're doing by having your tasting room, I'd like to have both, actually. I'd like you to expand. I'd like you to just be at our doorstep all the time, too. And you can ship, so that everybody sees they ship, okay? But this is the thing. Being in Scottsdale, you're also educating people on an area of Arizona that a lot of Arizonans I know don't really know, Chiricahua is a hidden gem, and I think that's wonderful that you're letting people know about that, because it's hidden. So good on that.
We chose Scottsdale because of all the visitors and tourism that comes to Scottsdale. But yeah, we feel in the tasting room like we're a little chamber of commerce, and we promote the entire Arizona wine industry and Arizona traveling, because we get people ask us for recommendations of where to go and so on. So all of my wine concierge on my staff, they're all educated about what's going on statewide as well as what's going on in the wine industry, because they look to us to tell that story.
But before you go, I want to ask you this. What happens, I know you touched on it about what was going on for 2015 being an amazing year, and I think 2014 was great too, just saying as we keep sipping this. I'm in another level now. The next wave is to rise it. And I like that it's petite. I feel much better. But what is the monsoon season like, when it is really one of those spectacular monsoons that we get that rain and the vegetation, there's 5, they say like Tucson has 5 seasons because of the monsoon, and people don't think wildflowers happen in the summer. Like, basically, the only time you won't see wildflowers is like in the real dead of winter. But even still, you still will. So what is it? How does it affect the grapes when you get those monsoons?
It's really fascinating, because our rainy season, the monsoon season, occurs when our growing season is. In California or in other growing regions, they get their rain in the wintertime. We get it in the summertime, and it offers up challenges for us. So, usually the monsoon season starts, which it comes up from Mexico into southern Arizona, almost a month before it reaches the Phoenix metro area. As you know, we're 3.5 hours southeast of the Phoenix, Scottsdale area. And so when our grapes are just budding out, and so we could get storms in the flowering season, and it'll kill the flowers, and we may or may not get a crop because of that. So that's a challenge.
Oh, wow. Mm.
And then once we survive the flowering, then the grapes are starting to produce on the vine, and the monsoon kind of kicks in. And we're amateur weather people. We're constantly on our phones watching the weather at all times. But what we do, because you don't want moisture when the grapes are starting to produce that cluster that sits on the vine, and that's when the monsoon kind of hits in that area. So we try to track that so that we actually do this spray on the field, which is basically baking soda, so that we can get that on the grape cluster before it closes up, so before it really tightens, so that if moisture did get inside that grape cluster, you're not getting mildew and starting to have that grape cluster and the grapes disintegrate because of the rain. So it's a challenge during monsoon, but we've gotten good about kind of tracking that and monitoring that. It's a crazy weather time. I mean, this year we had a big monsoon season. It was an interesting growing.
Yeah.
We lost all of our Viognier this year.
Oh no!
So our white grapes. So in a few years, that's going to impact us because we have no grapes from this vintage of our Viognier. And our Syrah grape was damaged also from hail, because also in the monsoons, because we're high in the mountain, remember?
Yeah.
And so you can get a cold snap that comes in September when the grapes haven't been harvested yet, and you could get hail, and that'll damage the grapes or destroy the crops. So we had, and of course, also because we're mountain and we're high altitude, wind is tremendous. The wind is great for keeping us cool, but it also can be ferocious in terms of the type of wind that we get.
Especially spring
that
and
part
fall.
Of the state.
Oh,
correct.
Spring and fall
Correct.
is just like, it's brutal, man. It's like, it is almost hurricane force. Like, it's so funny because we've been through a few hurricanes over the last couple of years in Florida, and we've been through real, like, the whole full hurricane before. Quite a few times, and we've been through all of wildfire, you name it. We've been battered around, Nancy and I. But being in these hurricanes, Nancy and I are looking at each other. Well, this is the same as the desert. It's just got rain with it. It's the same, because and I've actually driven through wind in the desert on Interstate 40, and it's moving your car on the highway, And there was no one on the highway. Everybody pulled over. I'm like, no, I'm keep going. You guys aren't there. Fine. It was fun, but it's scary, really scary. And that's the wind in the desert is really it creates those little, what do they call those wind tunnel thingies that go across, and it's really quite there's these like little sandstorm things, especially up in the Phoenix area, but. I think it's amazing that you're doing all this, and I have to bring up the Grenache. We have to, because Linda, we were talking about this before we were recording, that you just don't see Grenache on the wine menus anymore very often. And the Grenache, we were all sitting there going, okay, let's simmer down. This was an incredible experience, and so. Are a lot of Arizona wineries doing? I just don't remember Grenache being out there.
Grenache is so interesting because it's the most widely planted grape in the world. Yeah. But it is primarily blended. So everyone's had Grenache, but it's blended in with other grapes. But we, in Arizona, we call it the sun bunny because it loves the high elevation of intensity of the sun. It grows really well in Arizona. So we love Grenache, and we love it 100%. And either like our 2015 Grenache is in new French oak barrels, and it's absolutely phenomenal. And then what you're drinking is our Sky Island Grenache, which is in neutral oak barrels. So we just wanted the fruit to shine through without any oak influence. So it's just a fun grape to try different ways.
That was it. One of the ladies that was sampling, she is not an oak person, the oak barrel, and she was like, you know what? I like this. And, you know, for her, like, she really just, if it's oak, I don't. And then I was like, well, oops, you're drinking it. And she goes, well, there you go. You know?
Yeah, it's all neutral barrels. Yeah.
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 Linda, I think this is so neat because, you know, you do this with your boat experience when you go boating in the summer, having your boat parties with different wine and tasting. And Nancy were like, hey, we're being like, but we didn't have to cook. So that was really good for everybody. But it was like that for us. We're like, okay, we've got wine and let's all see what everyone's doing. We had the notes and we're writing down, but it got to one point where the note across the entire thing is yum. That's
love it.
You know, yeah, we had all these notes, and then it just got to big old yum on everything. Like, you know, but it is yum. It is interesting to have other people with you to do these kind of parties, and I know you're doing it in a tasting room, so it's informative, and I think tasting rooms are so great to get education, and they're so much better. Before it used to be you had to be a wine snob and you know everything to go in a tasting room. Now people feel open and can go in and say, I don't know what this means. Tell me, you know. And I think also having wines that people, like you're saying, how you go around the world, and this got you started going and having a library of wines and inviting your friends to taste these extraordinary wines like yours. It's a really cool experience to do that and see what everybody likes, or it's a relaxed way to do it for holiday gatherings, whether it's Valentine's, Easter, holidays now, as we record this, Christmas, New Year's. It's just a really cool way. And then one of my favorite ways is everybody bring a bottle and put it in a brown bag. And, you know, we've done this at a friend's place at Christmas and Thanksgiving. You have the wine in a brown bag, and this started because of William Shatner's brown bag wine thing. And they taste the wine, and they have to explain the wine according to their business or career. And that's how they explain it. And we did that at one holiday party, and I encourage everyone to do it because it's
too much fun.
Yeah, because if you aren't like knowing of all the terms and everything, this is just a way for everyone to get on the same page, you know, and just enjoy the wine. Yeah. And then you pull the wine out, they're like, "Ooh, I didn't know that comes from Arizona," or, you know, Minnesota has wine. Who knows? But it's fun. There's so much you can do to celebrate wine. So thank you both, Diva Linda. You rock it, man. You know, like. If anybody's the queen of quality, that's your next name, is Queen of Quality.
Yeah, Queen of Quality. I like that. I really like discovering different wines, tasting different wines, learning the story behind the wines is really important. And Peggy's is just phenomenal. I think it was just a great story, and the fact that she made it through the pandemic is another, that's another story. So we'll have to bring Peggy back maybe next year and taste some new wines, and maybe even go out to her vineyards and where she's producing the wines and so forth, and just do an update on that. So anyway, wonderful.
Well, thank you, Peggy. I would like to also just your followers, if they get on our mailing list at LDV-Winery.com, they can download our new wine and food perfect pairings guide, and they will receive an original recipe and a wine pairing every month for 12 months if they join our mailing list.
I like your mailing list. I got to join too. I got you forwarded it to me, and it's cool because you got events, and even going on your website, you have recipe books, and so you're really helping everybody kind of put the full Monty together for people to have an experience. And I think that's it. When we travel, we want an experience. And it's the same with wine. It should be an experience, and that's what it was, for us. Your wine was an experience. So thank you so much. And hey, we're coming through Arizona in February, ladies. I'm just saying.
Ooh.
I'm up for a hike in the Chiricahua-Mountains. Come on, Diva Linda.
Perfect.
I know you can get hiking boots with twinklies on them.
Yes.
Twinklies and sparklies. Twinklies is my new word, apparently. God, anyway.
my biker rain boots. Yeah, here. That's because I can hike in those. Yeah. Nothing goes through those things.
But
those
you
are crazy.
should go to Chiricahua-Mountains. It will blow your mind.
Yeah. I think so.
Yeah, and I love that you're vegan in cattle country. You go, girl. Thank you.
Yeah, there you go.
Even though it makes sense now. Thank you for explaining that, because I always put it on the sulfites having something. So that really explained it for me. So thank you for that. Everyone, LDV-Winery.com. Also, allingoodtaste.info to follow Diva Linda. I mean, like I said, Queen of Quality. And also the article is up on blendradioandtv.com. Just type in LDV Winery, and you'll find it. You'll also see it under Linda as one of our experts. And great food and food pairings with the wine, and also a great recipe for spicy Thai noodles is up there too. So, of course, keep up with us at bigblendradio.com. Except for big holidays, we air daily at 4 p.m. Pacific time, 7 p.m. Eastern time. So thank you all, ladies, for joining us. It's been a real pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take
care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.